Hello, traders. It's late morning on Wednesday, 13th of March, 2019. Reminding traders to use risk capital you can afford to lose if you're playing this game. Well, we're taking a look at our charts in play. And at this point, we had suggested to our traders, make sure you are paid by 12 and then smooth your stops up to the 7 to 8 area. And next target we had was the 18s, 17 to 18. And then obviously if we could get above this key high, then the target becomes trying to knock out that 24.75 high. Complete reversal from down here. And you'll note that we're approaching about a 100-point target. And we've got one last remaining target for today in our system that calls for 26.75. So that is possible to take this out. But again, you get to the point where risk and reward starts to come into play as we back and fill. So typically, if we get through one level, then we're going to move the box up and everything slides up one box. So we know that this is now the fighting box. So at this point, we take that and we say, okay, so that's got to be our next resistance zone up here. This has now got to be our fighting box. And this has got to be our support box. Simple as that. So this look tells us still that 88 support, 82 the big support, 2800 the 03 breakout, got about a 20-point swing from that 03 breakout. And we've taken out the 12s, we've come back and we've basically erased all of this down move and then just trying to knock that high out before dawn. And that's the final risk and reward for today. Tunnel through time. Not one shred of evidence that we wanted a short. Told traders can cover your profits anytime you want, but I would not be in a hurry to short. We do know that half gap and gap trades are available, and I said to our team, we thought the morning would be for testing for resistance levels, and then this afternoon perhaps for taking some profits. So nothing has changed my mind about that formation. And we said we don't want to be the first ones to try a short, show some evidence that a big boy wants to push back. So primary targets have been hit. And one last one, just a few points above us. 5-minute RTH, no evidence yet. Still got to get through the red line and the blue line. Squeeze all morning long. And primary trade time is just about done. And here's our yearly chart. And what we had talked about down here, we'd said, this is going to be our support. Make sure you understand that. And then we got the drive and today we really complete taking out mid-zone here and then retesting the highs. So we can see that this has been a pullback that has now held and is obviously support until broken. And then we're going to come up and basis this chart. We're also going to keep an eye, obviously, on this 78 area. So we try to fit the pieces together. And this is a very important part of the puzzle that we look at because it's a big boy idea, step by step. And here's our OTF predictive chart. We've gotten to that 12.5, so it opens the door, if we get above it, to then scoot to the next level. So all of these get moved up. And theoretically, this is the top of that box, 22.25. So now we're going to put this above us. And this becomes our fighting box. And this is a big boy chart. This is predictive in nature, identifying one level to the next. And you can see why I thought this was a breakout this morning back here at the 03. Call that first thing this morning. 03 is a breakout level. And above that, we're testing long side. Step by step. I identified this 3-minute chart as being the one I wanted to watch today because it seemed to be in play. And there's no evidence here of that cracking. Once we got back up above this 94, 95 area, scooted up, little pullback into that 02, 03 test, and it's been all uphill since then. Not once given any indication other than being stretched too far away from the rain line, not giving one indication yet that there's a valid short with a high odds probability. So this is the type of chart that keeps us out of trouble. Understanding that the blue line typically are buys and add-ins, and the green and red are our fast lines. And then obviously you want to be on top of the rain line, because that once you start to spread and get away from that, that gives you these type of runs. So not quite got our last target of 26.75, calling that 27. And anybody wants to short, you could short anytime you want, and you have to be able to take your stops. So we don't try to tell people don't short, but we do advise them to go along. If we're in an up move, we advise them shorting seems to be a fool's game against just playing the trend, buying the supports, and then rebuying them if you step out and try and go along with a trend that's established. And at one time, you'll be right with a guess, but you're going to be wrong 5 times before you're right once. I don't like those odds. And here's that order flow profile chart, a 5-minute chart. You can see how this has held support, bounces up, and then this rides it like a Keltner, evidently. Like a Bollinger Band, but it rides the outside edge. I think that's one of the things that I'm learning about how this works. Very similar to like a Bollinger Band when it squeezes, but then you can ride the outside of this. And this is a 5-minute chart. Let's take a look at a little bit deeper chart. It is a 15-minute chart. And pretty interesting to me to understand perhaps some of these lines that have come in here, areas that I had thought would be supportive. For example, this morning we'd moved our stops up to that 08 area and said, okay, you got to break this. We just kind of moved them up. As the market moves up, you can move your stops with you. And at one point, you're obviously going to get stopped out, and that's the whole point: is capture the majority of the move, take some profits, and then let your runners continue going up until the market says no. Gotcha. So this is a 15-minute chart, and certainly we can understand the levels from our work and from some of the things that we look at. And this 11.5, 12.5 area, very important. And my guess is we'll get some backing and filling. If we get some at lunchtime, then obviously the afternoon will be for a push for a retest failure. But for now, again, the primary trade just about done, and this is probably smart short saying I've got enough. I'm sorry, longs. I've got enough, and I'm going to go and grab my lunch, capture what I can, come back this afternoon, maybe go to the pool. Anyways, this chart seemingly will give us some advantage by understanding key levels as we had identified at 02 support. And obviously, until broken at 02 is support. And now you've got the 12s. 12s are supportive until broken. Just keep moving it up step by step. Above the 03 is a breakout. Higher highs, higher lows. So basis this chart, obviously currently, if we do not get a new high, got to get past the 19s. If you do, then you got to get past the 15s. And then the next target obviously would be the 10.5 to 12 area. And that would be our 456 trade, which I'm not thinking about today that we're gonna get back and bust this 06. I think that's our big support for now. Once that gets hit, then that probably will negate, it won't negate a retest failure, but it might negate new highs. And to look at NQ, which obviously has been leading the way, so we're following the lead. 3-minute chart. And our potential targets that we talked about, the 12.5, the 17s, the 22 zone, and the 26.75 target. All valid targets today. So on the one hand, we have our predictive chart, and then we have our targets that we're trying to get to, objectives for the long side, and obviously we're trying to read support ideas. Could not correct this 10, 975, 10, and that's where the upside remains intact. And you can see the amount of chop here, but got to keep following the moving averages. They're really very helpful until they get too stretched, and then they tell you something. And in 3-minute chart, you want to see it roll over a bit, and then you're gonna be looking back to the 5s because the 5s will be next. Here's your 5. Crossover right here, sits on it overnight. Stolen range when we wake up. One little bleed back and cannot bust back underneath the O2s. And it's uphill with no end in sight, seemingly. Trees don't grow to the sky. Now here's that 10-minute chart that we started with. And you can see that this has gone parabolic. Pull. And call that 88 supportive. 92 supportive. And 98 supportive. And then got to get back up here above and hold on to this 07, 08 area here, and then lights out. So that's how we use the charts to help us try to identify timing and directionality and potential targets. Have a great lunch, everybody.